Greetings, greetings. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. You are now tuned into the vault. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening in on a replay, wherever you are in the world. Just would like to say to you, we're going to be bringing some awesome content here with what private banking is and is not. So just want to thank you once again for tuning in live. We appreciate you at the vault, continuously increasing your private education through private trustee training. If you all are looking to get involved in private trustee training, you can feel free to reach out to us at christian@trustchristian.com. Just want to thank you for once again inquiring for all of our trustees that have moved forward in the trustee training, and as well for the individuals that are looking to engage in trustee training privately. Just want to thank you all. So today we're going to be talking about what private banking is and is not. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. I have a lot of individuals contact me talking about private banking, want to administer their life from a private banking capacity. And so we want to definitely make it a point to move in the proper capacity when it comes to private banking and private trusteeship. Because when you understand private banking, I'm going to go ahead and give you all the definition. Usually private banking is reserved for high net worth individuals that when they get to a certain financial level, traditionally it's going to be a accredited investor. They get to the point where they can participate in private banking. Usually they're going to be considered alternative investments, investments that you have access to because you make over $250,000 a year per the SEC, or you have $1 million worth of assets outside of your actual residence. So there is a specific income criteria to actually participate in certain forms of private investments. But when we talk about private banking, there are alternative options. And the reason why there's alternative options when it comes to trust Christian, own nothing, control everything is because you understand that trust are contracts. Private banking is talking about private contracts. So when you understand these type of contracts or accounts, which we're going to get into, these accounts, these contracts are just traditionally private situations, so they have a lot of flexibility. They have a lot of control from the individuals creating these contracts and things of that nature. So when we get into what's considered private banking, you have to understand that a bank is a trust. Okay, why is a bank a trust? Because most businesses are created off of a contract. So that's why when you see a lot of the older banks, you see private bank and trust or X, Y, and Z bank and trust. Traditionally, banks are going to be set up in a trust capacity, but more deeper when you get into private banking, those are institutions that traditionally don't use a lot of the formal insurances. Usually your hedge funds, when we talk about private equity, when we talk about private placement, when we talk about private life insurance policies, the reason why all of those entities are considered private, or those investments are considered private, engagements or contracts that are considered private, is because they're private because contract law is private law. And no state can impair the obligation to contracts. That's Article 1, Section 10 of the United States Constitution. Every corporate entity, every state, even Louisiana to a degree, even though Louisiana is not under the common law, all of the states are under common law, Article 1, Section 10. You can look at it. No state will impair the obligation of a contract. So if a contract is to set up a account or a private investment, usually that means that it doesn't involve the government. That's why it's private. It's because it doesn't involve the government. But when you want to get involved with issuing securities and certain type of collateral, you're going to be dealing with insurances, and in turn the FDIC is going to be involved. You have a lot more public scrutiny because you're issuing and selling, I guess you would say, securities and investments to public individuals, and the public is always going to be protected by the government. So one of the ways I hear a lot of people always come to me and they engage and they say, well, hey, you know, I want to get into private trust, a private banking. You know, how can I do that? What are some of the things I can learn? A lot of times people always ask me, in private trust, what can they do to learn? So I'm going to tell you all what you can learn. You can learn a thing called GAAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. As a private trustee, as a private banker, you are incumbent, or you have to know GAAP principles. You have to understand GAAP principles. You have to be very aware of generally accepted accounting principles, because that's all private banking is banking is dealing with ledgers, and then you have to understand accounting principles. You have to understand those things. So when a lot of times individuals ask, how do I administer private banking situations, you're going to have to understand GAAP principles. The second thing you're going to have to be dealing with is understanding FASB, which is Federally Accounting Standards Board. So a lot of times, a lot of individuals don't understand what FASB is, but FASB is the Federally Accounting Standards Board. These are the institutions that are not necessarily regulating private banking, but they are putting out the accounting principles, the accounting standards for any entity that's going to operate in the United States and be operating in some type of banking capacity. So when individuals say they want to come to private trustee training, these are the things that you're going to have to learn as a private trustee or as a private banker to understand how to administer these private entities. Is understanding those type of principles, understanding those type of regulators. Okay, so GAAP and FASB is FASB is Federally Accounting Standards Board. Those are the entities that you're going to want to be aware of. I have a lot of individuals come to me talking about they have 9(8) numbers. These individuals have 9(8) numbers, and they have a 9(8) number for a trust. But just remember, you cannot have a banking institution if you don't have substantiating documents. You can't say that you have a trust and you don't have because you have a 9(8) number or something, you've been issued an EIN number. That does not mean that you actually have a trust. So substantiating documentation is very, very important when it comes to a private banking situation. Okay, so even when it comes to trust, you have to have the supporting documents. I hear individuals come to me through consultations all the time and say, oh, well, what do they say? I have a trust. Well, what type of trust is it? I have an irrevocable trust. Well, I could take you all to the 1041 tax form, and it doesn't say anywhere on there, per the IRS, that there's a such thing as an irrevocable trust. So when you have a lawyer tell you there's a such thing as an irrevocable trust or a living trust, how can you be aware of that when it's not even on the 1041 tax form? So you have to understand when you're looking to learn private banking or private trusteeship, you have to once again understand you have to enroll in a private education system. This is private information. You're not going to learn the exact details through Googling and then go to some public lawyer. When we talk about private banking, the average lawyer cannot help you. Why? Because they're educated on public education. This is what I do my best to convey to you all in the public, is that there's a separation between public and private, and they don't mix. So public lawyers traditionally aren't going to help you set up a private banking situation. They barely even going to know how to help you protect your assets or help you in the banking situation when they're public. So I just want to let you all know that. Another thing is to understand that these life insurance policies that we talk about at the vault, they're always private. Why are they private? Because they're contracts. But the average individual couldn't tell you why they're private. They can't tell you that they're private because they don't understand that contract law is private law. They don't understand the benefit of the insurance policy. They say, whoa, I got to invest in Bitcoin. I got to invest in this. I got to invest in that. But they don't understand the security and the privacy of the insurance game. The insurance game is based off of contracts. So when you seen the government bailing out banks, they weren't bailing out Lehman Brothers. They weren't bailing out private institutions. They were bailing out insurance companies. That's who they were bailing out. They weren't bailing out traditional companies, public companies. They were bailing out private entities, people that have insurance, that insure basically that the government and the public population can keep their money, giving those loans to them. These are things that you have to understand from a private perspective, not from a public perspective. So that's why we deal with these type of policies. And we have specific wealth managers at the vault to help you understand and know how to implement certain private wealth strategies using life insurance. The next thing is private placement. When you're dealing in the private, I did an episode on this yesterday. You all can go through the vault and look for the private placement account, introduction to private placement account. Reason why you need to be introduced to private placement is because there used to be a lot of rules and regulations, still are a lot of rules and regulations, that if you don't make a certain amount of money, you can't participate in these accounts. Once again, if you have a certain amount of money sitting in the bank comes to you and says, hey, we're going to take your money and we're going to loan it out. They're going to take your money, they're going to loan it out, and they're going to make a certain amount of interest. But guess what? That doesn't mean they get all of the interest. There's contracts that private placement accounts say, look, the bank only gets 25%. You could dictate that you get 75% of the money back off of the interest But you have to understand those type of accounts come from having a certain financial education, knowing what banking institutions you can engage in, and that is how you practice using the bank as a true intermediary. Because that's what they are. They're intermediaries. The bank wouldn't have any money to quote unquote hypothecate. So you definitely want to do your research on what hypothecation is. They wouldn't be able to even hypothecate your money if you never gave them money. They wouldn't be able to do it. But they do it based on the fact that your money or money that you might be holding on to is sitting inside of a bank. They're utilizing that to multiply. And everyone says, oh, well, the bank, that's corrupt and this, that, and the third. No, they're actually utilizing private banking practices, using GAAP, using FACIP, and that's the advantage that they have. But you have to understand that, okay, if I give them this money, I can set up contracts to make sure. Now, once again, you can't walk into a teleline bank. You can't walk into a public institution, keyword public, walk in there and talk to a public banker and say, hey, can you help me institute these private banking contracts? It doesn't work that way. I'm telling you straight out. You're not going to walk into a public institution and say, I'm going to give you a issue of a debt instrument and you're going to start giving me some money back or give this entity back some money based off of the fact that I've given you a private instrument. It doesn't work that way. I have people try to come to us with consultations and say, oh, well, you know, the bank, I gave them a private instrument. Shouldn't they be able to issue debt? No, it doesn't work that way. It's a public bank. They're based off of insurance. If you're giving them hard collateral asset, then that's a different story. But if you're issuing them a debt, what obligation do they have to you? They don't owe you anything. So this is understanding private banking through private contracts. And then we get into private equity. You know, a lot of individuals, you know, I deal with individuals all the time, once again, trying to issue debt from a private capacity. The private is focused off of assets. It's focused off of hard, tangible, intrinsic value things. You know, there's no debt coming out the private. There's debt in the public. That's why you see insurance in the public. That's why you see debt in the public. Because the public is different than the private. These are the mindsets that I want you all to have when you're dealing in private banking. You have to have hard, tangible assets, gold and silver. Don't they say banks are supposed to be holding gold? Right. But they're not issuing gold to the public. Why? They're issuing debt notes. We're issuing promissory notes. They're issuing negotiable instruments. That's what's in the public. But when you say you want to deal in private banking, you have to understand that there has to be generally some type of hard, tangible, collateral assets that are going to be either collateralized or going to be securitized. And if you're going to have something securitized, you're going to be dealing with the Securities Exchange Commission, which is going to take it back into the public to ensure anybody that's receiving that security or negotiable instrument is going to have some type of remedy and recourse in the public. These are the things that you have to understand as a private banker if you're going to be dealing in the public. Now, a lot of people say, I want to protect my wealth privately or protect wealth privately. That's when you're getting into the private trust, and then you have to understand that you don't want to mix either. So that's why private trustee training is so essential. It's so you don't mix it. So I want to bring my trading partner on, Cornell, because he understands private trusteeship. He is a private trustee, and so I just wanted to hear from you. Cornell, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Cornell. What is your thoughts on the private banking situation coming from a trader's perspective when it comes to private banking and administering lifestyle from a private trader's perspective?
I love it. It's educated to understand that there's nothing wrong with giving, and it's what the rich people are doing, and with me trading through a trust, that money that's left over, I actually give to someone on the private side and do some good with it. Or, like you said, getting the education, I could be with my own foundation. And basically, we talking zero dealing with the government because we on the private side, even with the insurance. Like I'm learning that on the private side, even with the insurance. People, you cannot beat the private side education, period. And we trying to share it. And coming from my perspective, I'm not the guy that got all the degrees. But this information go beyond somebody with a degree. sometimes like it goes past your public CPA or attorney. Actually, they probably would pay some of these people that we are involved with on the side for the information. But as far as trade from the trust, we not sitting there worried about charging the IRS.
Right.
Because we're using the proper protocol from education. Don't think that we dodging the IRS. No, we just setting it up from a private standpoint to, well, guess what? My money go into the trust. The trust, I'm a trustee. I don't own anything. I would never own anything. And it's just developing that mindset. And when you catch on to that, you'll see that you'll be in a better position because you can literally control your family legacy, your kids' wealth, and pass it on from generation to generation. That's what it should be about.
Right.
We're trying to educate people on that.
And I see so many people talking about, generating wealth. First of all, there's no wealth generated usually in the first generation. Wealth is something you pass on. You can't sit here and say, I see people on the internet all the time. Yeah, you going to build wealth. In your lifetime, you might build a substantial income. But I'm going to tell you what wealth is passed on. Wealth is passed on to another generation. When you can set the second generation up, the third generation up, that to me is wealth. In our lifetime, we'll just create a lot of money. We'll create a lot of tangible assets, a lot of holdings, a lot of things of that nature. But when you practicing private banking and talking about building wealth, you pass that on. You have to pass wealth on. You don't hold wealth. So it's the same thing with the private banking situation. You have to be operating from a private capacity to even participate in these type of things. And we want to encourage you all to understand that privacy means without the government. They are protecting your right to privacy, Article 1, Section 10 in the Constitution. Who do you think wrote the law for that? Rich people wrote that law. It wasn't no poor people that wrote that law to protect the right to privacy. So when people come and say, well, how do I know that it's real? It's as real as that gun law. Article 1, Section 10. They haven't stopped people from getting guns. They're not going to stop people from utilizing and creating private contracts to operate and do business, period. Now, the question is are you going to invest in your private education to learn how to do that just like those individuals did from a private capacity, period. And private banking is an education that you have to learn from a private community or a private mentor, and that's what we provide at Trustee Training. Trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. That's what we provide at the Vault. Is understanding.
And it's interesting that we even talking about this subject because I was just talking to one of my friends and he asked me a question because he know I deal with the trust on the private side. One of his friends literally told him he's going to make $3 million this year. He was only going to pay $3,500 on an LLC. And I told him I wouldn't take that advice because the IRS coming to see somebody because you're not finna show $3 million on the LLC. And that's just like that. That comes from the lack of people thinking because I got money, I know everything, and not getting educated. As y'all see, we're not even really talking about the money. You don't see me bragging about no money that I make trade, because it ain't about that. For me, what it's about is talking about somebody trying to change how my family structure has been in the past over the years. Y'all don't even understand that you can set your kids up now. Literally, this is what the wealthy do. He done touched on it on a couple episodes before. The wealthy sit here setting up lifetime investments.
Lifetime investments, generational investments from when they can get the capital. I hear so many people say, "Oh, I'm gonna get my money right before I get the trust and get going in that type of contract education." It's like it's kind of interesting to me, Cornell.
But guess what?
The status,
that's
man.
Where that's where train come in. That go. Like, we just not talking. We showing you multiple ways to get to that prize side. It's really the person actually putting the effort in and saying, I want to change my life. Like I'm not going to call the lady's name that actually texted me that. I talked to her a couple months ago. And she said, you know what? I'm going to take a leap of faith. I listen to y'all all the time. Y'all right. I got to take control of my life, my finances, my kids, well, guess what? She got into the trade. Guess what? The trade leads to you getting over to the trust. It leads to you getting to the insurance. It leads to you getting into the private placement. But you got to get started somewhere.
Right.
And the most important investment going to be the investment in yourself. Don't think that we haven't spent money on ourselves, but guess what? It was worth the investment.
Every time.
We still invest in ourselves right now, every time.
Every time. And it's funny, Cornell, that you say that, because I remember you always saying that, you know, you got to get into different environments. You got to get around different people. And this week, I actually have the pleasure of getting around some hedge fund managers, some private equity managers, wealth managers, ultimately, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about individuals that are managing assets over $20 million, over $500 million, even over $1 billion. To be able to be in that company is a very, very powerful position to be in. But those are individuals that understand how to set up a private company or how to manage private families' wealth and grow those assets, and they know how to maintain privacy. They know the right lawyers. They know the right individuals, but you have to be willing to invest in your education. That's what the company's doing for me, is investing for me to be in those environments so I can share with you all, because what we do over here is just share. It's up to you to invest in your education. We just feel that if you're going to live in America, so-called greatest country in the world, there's certain information that you shouldn't be locked out of, but you do have to take that faith step and invest in your education. And not say, oh, I need a free education, or oh, I need to take out a loan. I'm a doctor, so I got $100,000 worth of student loans. What is that supposed to mean? You don't have a sound financial education. You just have an education in being a doctor. That doesn't mean you have a financial education. So there's a certain level of information that most individuals don't end up getting in their life because they don't understand the importance of it. So it's up to you to understand the importance of it and to invest in it. Period. And so it's time to make those decisions. We want to share with y'all that, you know, some of the things that we have access to, because it's important for individuals.
And we coming with it. It's mindset. While everybody's shopping, this is our strong points of the year.
Oh yeah.
We literally working every single day right now.
Oh yeah.
We're not worried about going shopping right now. I'm setting up for first quarter next year already right now. We got some other things coming out. We not playing, but everybody that sees, we not playing. Like, if you really trying to change your life, and I have been having a lot of people start to change their life. Like, y'all gonna understand that when you don't have to chase money, money will come to you.
Yes.
I don't have to sit here and show you money. Think about when people showing you money. I ask this question when we get to talk about crypto all the time. Who has the Bitcoin? Y'all show me who owns the Bitcoin. Nobody. Because we're looking at the people that's showing us we can make money right now. Money this, money that. We ain't talking about interest. We talking about compound interest. I don't want the quick dollar. I want the long dollar. And the talks of the dollar going away, like, you can't even talk to me. You keep talking about the dollar going away. We moving $7 trillion, $9 trillion every day. People with the dollar. It's not going anywhere.
It's funny.
I had to throw that one in every time. But guess what? That don't mean that. This is what y'all don't understand about crypto. It ain't the crypto. It's the blockchain. That's right. Education. Right. We ain't gonna talk about that right now, but that's education. It's the blockchain.
Right.
It ain't the crypto. It ain't the little third-party companies. No. Go do your research. You can make money in this, but it's over with for Bitcoin unless you got $10,000 to get you a Bitcoin.
Right.
The real investment would have been long-term thinking, like what we doing, like put yourself in position. I'm gonna give people a perfect example. If you had been trading and making some money, even if you want to make $50 to $100 a day trade, you would have probably had extra money. You could have bought some Bitcoins at the first of the year. And wouldn't have had to worry about trying to cash them out for a quick dollar because you're making money every day trade. Now, guess what? You bought them at 500, Bitcoin at 10,000. That was the real investment. That's what a millionaire's coming in at. Everybody say, oh, millionaire. Yeah, the millionaire's already been created. Now, the ones that still really get in is the millionaire because they still going to take advantage because they're probably going to go up some more, but for somebody like you that's starting off, you got to think long term, not quick dollar. Stop thinking about the money and just really get the education and study. Even with trade, I talk to people about this all the time with trade. It's literally mindset, and I've been in other professional traders saying the same thing: risk management, mindset. We ain't even talking about the money.
Yeah.
But that's from education.
Right.
Now we get into the trust factor. I don't want to trade out of the LLC or get a self-employed tax ID
Yeah.
and get taxed at the end of the year with all this money trained.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm getting educated. I'm going to invest in myself.
Right.
I'm going to go over here with the wealthy people. This is 1%, 2% wealth information. And you got somebody that's willing to share it to you.
Right. And I mean,
You got to take advantage of it.
it comes from a mentorship perspective. You know, it's not like we just sitting on the internet and just trying to sell people a product or anything of that nature. It's actually a mentorship. It's a community, honestly. The private trustee community is a community of
It's a community.
philanthropists. You know, we do have individuals that do move towards the foundations and have private family foundations and operate and utilize those entities. I mean, you can't question a foundation if you understand what you're really utilizing. You know, all wealthy people have foundations, you know, so it's not a coincidence. We can have an episode about that, but, you know, point being is you know, it's a community of us as private trustees. It's, you know, even the community that I'm going to be visiting this week, I mean, they're a community of wealth and asset managers. So, you know, you have to get around those people. You have to invest in your education. And that's all we're really talking about here with you all is to, you know, when you want to say, oh, I'm getting into private banking, you have to understand that the private side is a community of people, true communities of people. It's not just, you know, individual taxpayers just having conversations over the public airway and talking about public stuff. No, there's non-disclosures and there are privacy agreements that are in place when you want to learn certain type of strategies to live your life, and private banking is one of them. So we look forward to hearing from you on private trustee training. Once again, you can contact me at christian@trustchristian.com. Once again, that's christian@trustchristian.com, and we can move forward in that capacity. Subscribe to the Vault. You can follow us on Facebook or on the YouTube channel. We're going to be doing episodes every day this week, every day this month for December, because like we said, we're not sleeping right now. We want to make it a point to share with you all quality content so you can move your lives forward and understand the importance of really the importance of the private side and how to protect your privacy. We all have a public education for the most part, but I mean, how you gonna get a private education from a public individual? You have to make sure that you're dealing with people that are living that life, that are about that life. And just like Cornell said, it does take a level of responsibility. So if you're not looking to be responsible in your actions or be accountable in your actions, you know, it's not even for you. Like, we already know the trust life, the trader life's not for everybody. It takes a level of responsibility and accountability. But what better way to live your life knowing that you can man up or woman up and actually provide for your family from a responsible and accountable perspective and pass on a legacy. And I'll flat out say it, do it tax free. You know, we definitely might talk about this tax bill that they might have going on in the public, but I can tell you right now, it doesn't affect private people. It only affects public people. Everything about it affects public people. Yeah.
We ain't even got to talk about it. We ain't even thinking about it.
Right, we're not thinking about it. Why? Because we're not set up with a public business. It's nothing about public going on. It's about privacy. That's what we're talking about. You don't. And Donald Trump, he's a public official. He doesn't have to show tax records because he's not doing. His business isn't public. But for the average individual, they don't catch it. So I just want to thank y'all for tuning in live. Feel free to share this with your friends and family. Become part of the community. Invest in the community with your friends and family. And we'll move forward from there. Trust Christian, know nothing, control everything. This is me and Cornell. We're out.